Hey guys, I'm here with Ricardo Vcario. And this is like what? How many times have you been on my show? Two, three, four?
Oh, 3 to 4, I think. I'm not
Yeah, I
sure.
don't know, a lot.
It's
Anyway,
been a while. It's been a while
been
anyway.
a while. Yes. So, okay, Ricardo has all kinds of stuff going on. He's since the last time we've talked, he's written two books. And I have both of them here with me. He's
Oh,
written
wow.
Stardust and he's written The Resonant Earth. Oops, what's is that showing up?
You have to put it in front of your face, otherwise it doesn't work.
Okay,
Yes. Oh, yeah,
there
there
you
it
go.
is.
There you go. Those are his two books that he's written. Sorry, my virtual things. And I'll link them in the bottom in the description. They'll be linked. And then he's
Okay.
also recently written these two papers. Like one's called here. I have to get online to see it, but it's like one's about ancient mining, like copper mines, and then the other one's about like basically oceanic travel before they're telling us there was oceanic travel. So what are the titles of those two papers? They're academic papers. They're like books because they're like 40 and 75 pages.
Well, as you know, I'm always terrible to promote my work. Oh, I can. There's the workspace. Oh, now I can. So because of that, I have to read in order to don't say something wrong. So the paper that I did for that led to my presentation in the Ancient Artifact Preservation Society conference uh, in Michigan is called Ancient Copper Mines of the Old World. And basically, what this paper does is these people have been passionate and studying about this for 40 to 50 years. And I knew nothing of this. I knew nothing about the copper conundrum or paradox, but they spoke so highly and so passionate that I decided to go and see what I can find, right? And as you know, I'm an archivist. I have access to papers, even if they are behind paywalls, and so I decided to see what they are not. What I didn't hear for them is what actually was mined in the old world, and could that tonnage of copper justify by itself the artifacts we find in the archaeological record, right? And so when I did this study and create a summary of all of the known mines of the old world and what they produced, what I realized is at least the deficit is at least 1 to 10 or 1 to 100 in regards to what is found and to what was mined. So there is far more copper, way more copper found in the archaeological record than what was actually possible to be mined on the old world mines. So the question that these people are being done saying for Fred Widholm, for instance, was the first one, I think, is where did the copper came from? Where did the copper came from, right? So, in fact, the question they were making is where did the copper go? I brought the question is where did the copper came from? Because in the old world there is not enough copper. So they were asking where did the copper go, and I asked
Okay,
where did the
so
copper came from?
let's walk it back. Okay, so mainstream archaeology and or academia world is cloud or saying that the Bronze Age, which is when they have like copper metallurgy or whatever, was 3,000 years or 3,000 BC. Is that
Between the largest number is between 5,000 to 1000 BC. For the sake of the papers, just to include the Copper Age and the Bronze Age that comes right after, I did the study comprised between 4500 and 1000 BC. So what was mined during this period and what the archaeologists are telling us that was taken from the mines.
what's funny is that like you talked about like like malachite and azurite, like that's like
Yeah.
find like the really good copper, like when it's associated with that, and then because has a really low burning, like what do you call it, where you have slag and stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
I hope they didn't actually burn malachite and as because those are so gorgeous. Those are like the prettiest things ever. So that's crazy to me. But okay. So what makes us think that there was so much mine just because of the mines that exist or because of artifacts that we found?
First of all, as you know, academics don't work very well with one another. So there was never an academic that decided to publish a paper saying, well, this is a relation between this area mines, or even let's go into Asia Minor, or let's go into Anatolia, or let's go into Iberia, or they never summarize the quantities that they themselves stipulated independently that was mined there. So when they say that there is no reason to look for copper anywhere, is because they never did the math. Some of them did, never published papers about it, and that's why some academics, some archaeologists created this word some 30 or 40 years ago. There is the copper paradox in Europe, because they don't know where the copper came from when they start looking at what they could produce. Because most of the mines, like 80 to 90% of these mines, produced just enough, barely enough, to the consumption that was completely local. There is no surplus to be traded anywhere. Then you have a few mines that have a few surplus that can be sent somewhere, right? But one of the places they consider to be a major hub for the copper and Bronze Age, especially the Bronze Age, is Cyprus. Cyprus, the very name itself means copper, right? It was the island of copper. So, but when you go and evaluate what was mined from Cyprus, is like a maximum during 4500 to 1000 BC, a maximum of 35 tons. The Uluburun shipwreck that they found near Turkey carried 10 tons that they traced to Cyprus, which means that so the island in 4,000 years, the only thing it could do is 3 ships. That's it, right? Is this the major hub for copper in the Mediterranean? We can only produce 35 tons. In fact, I think it's 32 tons. But total during these years, which means that that ship alone, if you divide the whole production of copper, Asia Minor, Europe, North Africa, if you summarize all those values and divide them by the number of years, right, the cargo in the Uluburun ship alone represents up to 132 years of production, from 32 to 100 plus years of production.
That's just one ship that wrecked. So.
One ship, right? And this ship is half the size of the ship that the Phoenicians would use to go, as for instance, in the Anno expedition that is described in the Chronicles, when Anno went all the way down into the, how should I call it? Well, you have the north of Africa, then Africa turns a little bit inside and then keeps going down.
Oh, right.
He went at least at the part where it starts to go vertical again down. So and that's the Hanno Periplus, as you can go and look for it, people that are listening. So their ships, those ships were double the size of the Uluburu. They weren't going to the open ocean with small ships, although the Uluburun would be perfectly able to sail on the sea, because I don't know if you know of the Phoenicia. Lots of people know about the Thor Ironhall expeditions, right? To prove that it was possible to do transoceanic travels with his boats constructing according to the traditional methods. But he never succeeded any voyage. He wrote many books. It's incredible. He proved that it's possible, but he never completed any of the voyages that he set. He failed all of them. Well, the Phoenicia that no one talks about, he actually did 33,000 nautical miles, and it was a ship completely built according to the protocols of 600 BC, right? They circumnavigated Africa, and then 10 years later, the ship was 10 years out of the water, right? Which they would consider it was too fragile. It would break apart, according to the archaeology. 10 years after, they do small repairs, put it in the water, and sail from the Mediterranean into the Americas, right?
Okay.
With no problem whatsoever. In fact, the only problem they had, it was in the Mediterranean. They caught a huge storm in the Mediterranean, which broke the main masts. And so they stopped in a North African country and did what the Phoenicians or the Minoans would do in their time. That is to stop inland, search for wood, repair the mast, and continue their journey, right? So it is completely possible, transoceanic. The only thing that the reason why the copper is not evaluated in terms of quantity and if it was enough or not is because we have this barrier that says there is no transoceanic travel before Columbus, right? Which is, we know, even by academic terms, that is wrong. You have chickens with DNA that links South America to Oceania. You have corn found in India in the hands of Hindu deities that are in temples that are believed to be constructed in the 1100s.
Yeah, you have
So
Spain with the Egyptian mummies, you know.
the coca, the coca that was found in Egypt, where did it came from? Right? It's only exists in South America. So where did how did the coke appeared in Egypt? There's all of this small data that academics collected, but they never put the puzzle together because otherwise it would explode.
And before we get into that, which is, like the we were global before they're telling us we were global, like tell me about how the mining is similar when it shouldn't be similar. Like they use the same mining techniques like everywhere.
The same mining techniques, but the ores or the material is completely different. The reason why it's possible, while in the old world we have a maximum of copper taken out of the ground of 1,100 tons, just 1,100 tons from 4,500 to 1,000 BC. 1,100 tons is the maximum calculated, right? It goes from 200,000 tons, sorry, 200 tons to 1,100 tons. That's what academia tells us that was taken out of the ground in the old world mines. You come to the Upper Peninsula area, and it goes from a minimum of 100,000 tons to 500,000 tons, with several academics referencing 680,000 tons. Well, you only find 5,000 tons in the archaeological record in the Americas. So where is the rest? What happened to the copper? Where was it taken? Right? But in regards to your question, in the Upper Peninsula, the copper doesn't need to be smelted. It doesn't need to be treated. It doesn't need to create huge shafts and huge mines to extract the ore because the copper is there pure. It's called float copper, and it's huge slabs. One piece alone weighed 28 tons. These are pieces of copper the size of buses, right? So in one piece alone, they had more copper than all the extraction for certain mines in the old world, right? It's 28 tons in one piece. You have to keep in mind that be it carbonate or sulfide ores in the old world, there's only these two types, the carbonate and the sulfide. In the carbonate, you only have to smelt it, and the purity cannot go above 99.6% is the maximum purity of copper you can have in very good smelting technique, right? If you go to the sulfide, you can only go to 98.8, 98.9. The copper of the Upper Peninsula is 99.9% pure. It's just copper. If you go to a museum near you that has a piece of copper, you see, it's pure. There's nothing in it. There might be a little bit of trace of silver or a little bit trace of other minerals, but it's just 0.1%. It's pure copper. They don't need to smelt it. You hammer it with
Right.
stones to make the shape that you want, and it's ready to put on the ships and bring it to the Europe, to the major hubs where you find the tin, and the tin was then used to convert. It's a proportion of 10 tons of copper, 1 ton of tin, exactly what it was on the old
Make it
world
into
ship.
bronze.
Yes, and they make it bronze, right? So instead of having these huge centers of copper, as we are told to believe, you have these huge centers of tin that were controlling the copper that was coming from the outside, transforming into bronze and then distributing it to Europe. That's why it's in the south
So
of
where do you
England.
think it was coming from? The Americas or?
It's coming from the Upper Peninsula in the Americas. It's the only place where you can find copper with that purity. So the things that the Heartland Group, John Leffrand, uh, Boyd are doing now, that I've been deemed the PR for them almost a year ago, we tested several pieces of copper in order to prove that there was copper from the UP in the old world with the Luluia labs, where they test parts per billion, right? So the problem is the academics came immediately and says, okay, what pieces did you use to do the test? And so, oh, these pieces that even people on American universities like Caltech said, I have no doubt that this is a Bell Beaker piece, right? The problem is that these pieces don't have provenience or provenance. And therefore, no matter how many times we say it looks exactly as a genuine piece, it cannot be accepted by academia. So they just made a new agreement, and they just have several pieces that have both provenience and provenance that are now going to be tested once more. And as soon as the isotopic testing comes out and we find out that the purity and other minerals present in that piece leads to the Upper Peninsula, it's then proof. There is no further way to say there was no transatlantic travel, because,
So you can't exactly date it like per se date it, but you can date the purity to know where its origin was.
well, that's up to the academics to give them the provenance and the provenience, because they're the ones that found the piece in undisturbed soil relative to this era, right? So it's understood as a piece from the Bronze Age or from the Copper Age of the Old World. From that point on, all we have to do is to test it and see if the purity and the elements within that piece correspond to the Upper Peninsula. For instance, if you have any levels of purity that are above 99.6, there is 99% probable that it's come from the UP. If it has 99.8, it's 100% from the UP, because you cannot smelt copper and get to that. Even today, you only can get the same purity as it comes out of the ground in the UP, because we do electrolysis. And electrolysis produces 99.9% pure copper. But that's a thing that happens for the last 50 years or 100 years, I don't
Right. We
know.
haven't always had that. Right. Okay.
So, and let me just say this, and then you have the trees, the fuel for the fires, because sulfite will consume 25 kilograms of wood to produce 1 kilogram of copper, right? If it is, so if all of the copper that we find in the old world was processed in the old world uniquely, if you had to smelt all of that copper, which they don't, because it is pure copper already, it's not ore. If they had to smelt all of that copper, there would be not a single tree. There would be nothing,
Right.
because it require all the wood existent in the area, and further on, there is not enough wood to smelt all of that copper. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No. I wonder, that makes me think about Easter Island and like how when they discovered that there was no trees on the island. Um, anyway, but okay, so okay.
They say that there is no trees in the island
Yeah, they say
because the trees that existed there produced this fruit. And that fruit became the favorite treat for the mice that came with them when they did the traveling. So the mice multiplicated and started eating that fruit. And without that fruit, those trees die. This is a botanical thing that I cannot explain.
okay.
So they blame the mice for eliminating every single tree in the island. So they cut some trees, yes, but it was according to their studies, it were the mice that,
I, like gave a point basically
yeah, that
okay, so then what okay, so let's talk about the like the like we were global before they're telling us we're global. So like okay, so I think we've given it a pretty good picture that the copper is coming from places other than where they're saying it's coming from.
exactly. It
Uh,
has to have another source,
it
no
has to
matter
have
where
another
it is.
source. We don't have it, yeah. And then we have there's evidences that they don't believe is evidence that we had transoceanic travel before they're telling us we had it. You know, so like before Christopher Columbus, like or that I mean I know that we've had I mean, well, it's completely disregarding Aboriginals and Native Americans and the Polynesians and I mean like I don't know, it's like very bizarre, but of course we've had transoceanic travel for a very long time. So I don't understand like why that's still such a problem to talk about. And
Let's talk a little bit about irony. I've been in discussion for a few days with an archaeologist on X, and we end up discussing Cherokee origins. And so he keeps telling me, and he's the archaeologist, he keeps telling me that there is 15,000 years of history within the Cherokee oral traditions that he's in contact with. And I have no problem with that. I've been lucky enough to spend some time with the top echelon of the whole chunk. And I was told directly that they have traditions that span two ice ages. So in their old traditions, right? And so this archaeologist is asking me, because I'm presenting him the academic facts that say that Cherokee are recognized beyond 600 to 1000 CE, right? And he keeps saying, no, but it is 15,000 years. And I say, look, he asked me, why do you think that is not reflected in the papers that you are showing me? I said, you are the archaeologist. How am I supposed to know it? Because the oral traditions are not recognized by archaeologists, not here, not anywhere in the world. They go to the ground, they test, they see the undisturbed soil, they take the artifacts, they test for organic materials, and they give their dates, and end of story. So it is not up to me to say why is the academic world putting the 15,000 years of Cherokee tradition, right? So this is the contradictions between native traditions, oral history, and what we are told from the archaeological record. They rarely mix up together. They don't fuse because the periods of time, for instance, are completely different. The way that they say or what that site represents to what archaeologists say it represents sometimes is different. And I don't think we'll find a solution soon unless the academics decide to start and give more respect to myths and lore and oral tradition and try to evaluate all of that in the whole. I don't think we'll get to a consensus anytime soon.
I mean, and then you also, I mean, they have like the footprints in New Mexico and the white sands, which are I think 15,000 years old is like what they're saying now. But even then, it's like they're saying, oh, it's a footprints of like a school age group of children, but it's like, or they could just be little people, too. I mean, I don't know. But they have like, okay, so, we already know the whole Ice Age thing, which is, like kind of Younger Dryas ending time to time, like so between 12,000 to 10,000 years ago. But then what do you think happened around 4,000 to 3,500 years ago? Because it seems like all of this sort of this copper production stopped at the same time.
Well, it stopped when basically it there is very many reasons for it to have ended, and they go from environmental to new technologies. Because once iron start to be produced,
Right.
bronze lost its appeal, and you cannot get iron in that quantities from the Upper Peninsula. That's where they knew they were, right? Uh, in regards to, I'm a bit lost in your question. Let me try and
Okay, so
refocus.
basically like it seems like they're okay, whatever was going on 4,000 years ago seemed to also kind of stop, like the
Oh, yes,
transoceanic travel, all that.
sure.
Something else seems to have stopped them, that
I
there
think
wasn't continuality or continue it.
to me, and this is a bit of speculation, to me, it's all linked to the event of the Younger Dryas. Let me say why. So if you join both the impact theories and Robert Schoch idea of how the Younger Dryas happened,
Which I like
right?
his idea more, actually.
To me, I think they are both together because now we know that if a big object come closer to the sun will erupt towards that object directly. We don't know exactly how that's processed, but the sun reacts to that object. So I think that this huge comet come too close to the sun. There is a what I call a SME, a surface massage eruption, that comes direct to that object. It fragments it into gigantic boulders and other smaller and so on. And that glance hits that SME glances the Earth and impacts directly Mars, perhaps, but that's not I'm going now. So this huge chunk, right? Now broken, this huge comet now broken into immense amounts of material that some as big as buses, others as big as buildings, and others almost as big as a city are circling in our solar system and eventually coming into close to Earth, right? So you have the impacts with multiple air bursts and massive impacts into the ice in the Younger Dryas. But if you go and look to the impact history, you have another impact in the 70,000s. You have another major impact in the 4000s. You have another major impact in the 1600s, all of this BC, right? And every time you find one of these impacts, you have a period that is significant in history. For instance, if you see my paper 4000 BC, which is the date that I put because no one knows for sure, is the impact that is known as the Burckle crater. Well,
Where's that? Where's that located?
the Burckle crater is about 600 kilometers east of Madagascar, right? It created a tsunami so enormous that created chevrons. That is a geological process that happens when tsunamis hit the land.
Mhm.
Chevrons that are 300 feet high and they are 100 kilometers inland in Australia. Now, see, from Madagascar to Australia, it's a huge distance, right?
That's a lot.
And this impact, it impacted the bottom of the ocean, which means an unimaginable amount of water was boiled up and sent into the atmosphere, right?
Mm.
And here you have the explanation of the boiling rain, days on end of rain. You have the waters coming out and flooding the land. You have the biblical flood. You have the Atarasis flood, right? Exactly at the period that we are thought it would be, around 4000 to 3600 BC, right? They now produce a paper showing that the bottom levels of the pyramid of Menkaure has a flood of salt water that stayed there for at least 20 years. I can't precisely say the number. I don't know if it's 20, 25 years.
Okay.
Well, if you put all I have just said to you, because this tsunami would enter through the Red Sea and it'd go all the way into the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
So the Giza Plateau would be completely flooded. It would explain the recent fossilization or the recent marine animals that are found in from the third level of the casing stones down, because that's how high the water got. And it took time to go away. You can explain the high levels of erosion, not all of it, but some levels of erosion of the Sphinx enclosure. Where did all of that water came and all of the sudden to create such erosion on the sandstone, the limestone that is easier to scope. The
Mhm.
rain, the rain that Robert Schoch so much talks, can be explained by the huge amounts of rain that fell during that time. So you are asking me why I think it was interrupted. I think it was interrupted because of this cycle of events that started with the comet that blew up, then caused the Younger Dryas. And if you know this because you like shooting stars, so you know that if you go to the reports of the Taurid or the Perseus, I can't remember the name exactly, but the one that represents the comet that exploded for the Younger Dryas,
Right. The one that comes in August. Yeah.
you would see 150 years ago thousands of sightings an hour, right?
Mm.
And it's diminishing, which means we are cleaning the field that so many times impacted Earth with a large object. It's almost clean. Now we have perhaps 12 sightings an hour or something like that.
So what do you think of this three-eye atlas?
In Three Eye Atlas, I think, although people try to compare it with Oumuamua,
Yeah.
I don't think he has any terms to be compared because Oumuamua changed direction, accelerated, decelerated, changed direction again,
Left. It didn't even go to the sun. It like left.
and then just left. And this is showing all the characteristics of a comet. But I didn't dive too deep into it because I saw so many people extrapolating that I kind of lost the interest to go and look into it. But the glimpse that I see is that he's behaving as a comet would in terms of the coma, in terms of all. I don't see any reference to it accelerating or decelerating or changing trajectories as the Oumuamua did. Uh, so probably it might be just a comet, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard.
What is your opinion on that? You have looked into it?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's very like discovered by Avi Loeb, who also did the Muru Muru. And I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit of extra hype around it, but they do say that it is having erratic movement actually. So that or at least that's like what I've
Hmm.
from what I've read that the movement is erratic, which is why it's interesting. So I don't
I
know.
have to look more into it. I don't know enough.
Yeah.
I don't know enough.
But I think it's by the sun. The closest it was going to be by the sun was by right around when we had that solar flare a couple days ago. And then so maybe like the sun was lashing out at it,
Yeah.
like you're talking about your other little theory with that, because that's a good that's good theory. And then it's supposed to be the closest to Earth like December 3rd, I think.
Hmm.
4th, 5th, somewhere in
So
there.
it's coming from behind the sun? Is that it?
Yeah. Now it went around the sun, and then we had a big X5 flare
Yeah.
recently, which, by the way, I saw Northern Lights in New Mexico, which is crazy. And then it's coming back, you know, towards Earth
Hmm.
around
You know,
the
I look into it because I see people having auroras all over to the south. I'm in Canada and I was not fortunate to see because it's completely blocked by clouds for a week.
ah,
So I couldn't see anything. But I went and look what are the experts, the academics saying in regards for having this aurora so far south, right?
mhm.
So what is that related to the weakening of the magnetic field or to the magnetic excursion? What are their opinions regarding this? And to them, as far, although they recognize that the field might have been decreased 5%, that's all they gave. I think we're already at 20%, but they say 5%. It's not the cause of the auroras coming down. They say that a flare of that magnitude would always cause the energy being transported by the lines this far south, which I'm not sure is
The thing
correct.
is like I was, my parents are in their 70s and they've never known the aurora to reach New Mexico or Texas, like where they've lived their entire life.
And there were some bigger than this one. So,
Oh yeah, and I mean there was a X50 something like, or like there's been way bigger than X5. There's been I think the biggest one was in 2001 or 2 or something. Like, I can't remember. Let me look on Google real quick because that would be good to know. Uh, biggest recorded X flare from sun. Well, the Carrington event, but besides that, which they say is estimated to be over a 120, but let me see. Oh, there was an X45.
Jesus.
Uh, when was that one? Anyway, you would think this would be easier to find.
Hmm. I think we are entering a time where the sun will be less and less easier to find, but it's just my opinion.
Yeah. In 2003, there was an X28.
But
November
not
4th.
pointed at Earth.
Yeah, November 4th, 2003, there was an X28. And then there was an X13, September 2017. Uh, so it's just like, so an X5 isn't even
Hmm.
either of those,
But
and we didn't have auroras that came all the way down here,
but
or
the
did
others
at
were
Earth.
not
I don't know.
the others were not directed at Earth, I think.
Okay, well maybe that's the difference,
Yeah.
but I just think it's like really interesting that there should be way more talk about the aurora going to Mexico. It was seen in northern Mexico.
Yeah. Well, the sun weatherman that I've seen for several years the work he's been doing, right or wrong, he pointed out that more than the fact that we are seeing the auroras is the purple at the base of the aurora that we can see. Imagine it's a
Yeah.
2D printing. The purple at the bottom is what shows the weakening of the field because you shouldn't see that purple. That's what he points. It shows that the field is failing, not the aurora in itself, because it can happen. But it's that purple. He explains why if people go into his channel and on his last videos.
Right. I guess like the color depends on how deep in the
It,
atmosphere it's going.
it says that that purple should not be there if the field was behaving correctly. But I don't agree with the people that are now predicting uh, a backwash of the oceans, like the Earth is going to stop because of the geomagnetic excursion. I hope not. I hope they are
Nope.
not correct, right? Because otherwise there is very few places safe on Earth. But to me, the major problem is the sun and not the water, because people don't understand how dependent on electricity we are for every single thing. Because if there is another event like those that burn the telegraph wires,
Yeah, well, like the Carrington event.
that allowed to London to read the newspaper during at midnight. You could read the newspaper in the street. So bright was the
The year
aurora.
without a summer or
Yeah.
the or whatever they call it. Yeah.
If that happens now, in 5 days there is nothing in the supermarket. And keep in mind that during these 5 days you don't have power or water, because water is bring to your house by electricity, right? Your car would not work because it's based on electronics and it's going to be fried in the EMP signal that comes with the impact. So nothing works, and people are not ready to cope with the fact that there is nothing in the supermarkets. You can access water, so it's complete chaos. People will turn into one another completely, especially if they know that there is a survivalist or a prep guy in the neighborhood. It would be the first one to be attacked, and as soon as his bullets end, he's done. It's over, right? Because people who know there's food and there's water, because that guy, the crazy guy of the corner, has been preparing himself for 10 years. So he has all of this.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I think like your best bet is just to be as isolated as possible. Cities are not safe when you have that kind of situation.
No, no.
If you
That's why we are working in to create at least two self-sustainable communities. So at least there'll be a chance, and where things may continue. If nothing happens, great. We can continue the communities and grow from there. But if
Okay, yeah,
something
so tell
happens,
us about your other projects. What else has been going on? Because like you still have the university on like as a goal, but it's still, so tell us what
well,
you're working towards right now.
we we are now a fully fledged institute with all the requisites of a non-profit. This is going to be announced in the next 2 weeks, where we're going to make a PR event explaining all the projects that we have going on, and we have been suppressing because we didn't have the certification yet, which we did. We
Who
just
is
didn't.
we, quote unquote?
The Institute for Natural Philosophy. So at this point is me and Guy as the founders. Then we have the Steve Wilbur, that is doing most of the administration and the paperwork. We have George Sekalaris, or Yorgos Sekalaris.
The guy from
Uh,
Ancient Aliens with the hair? That guy?
no, no, no. He has a good hair, but it's not that.
Not that guy.
He's
Okay, that guy, his name's something like that. George.
Yeah, yeah, I sometimes I mix up the names, but no, I interviewed George yesterday, so I know I'm still sure that I'm Sekalaris is his name. So he's Yorgos, but Yorgos in English is in America is translated into George, which
Okay.
is funny because he says, yeah, in America I'm Greek and I go to Greece and I'm an American. So because he lives here. So George is taking care of our store, and he's been creating art for us. He's very connected with events for charity that he does constantly for other people. So he's great, and he's a philosopher. He's a writer. We have Jason, who is people know as Shaman 711. We have Sarah, that is along with Jacqueline doing the Universe Unveiled podcast.
And so this podcast is connected with the institution.
Yes, yes. And now we have the Shaman and the Philosopher that is done by me and Shaman. Uh, further than that, we are already producing documentaries. We have the first one is about to be finished in terms of editing. It's going to be about the antediluvian Alabama, also from an impact of high heat, high pressure in Alabama.
And don't you have some, aren't you going to put that on TV somehow or some kind of,
Yes, we are preparing. We don't have the people, that's the problem, because we have a lot of things that could move forward, but we don't have enough people to do all these things.
Mhm.
So we have a TV channel prepared in the name of the institute that can be watched in any television by clicking on a button uh,
That's cool.
as Amazon, and we can stream 24/7 with whatever it is that we want. But I don't have people just to keep adding the content and give it continuity. We started it. It was online for testing, I think, for a week. Um, but then it stopped because there was not enough. The person that was behind it couldn't find the time to keep changing the schedule every single day. And
Uploading the,
yeah,
yeah,
and so we stopped that for now.
and,
We have the Ferris magazine that unfortunately the person that is curating the magazine and doing the editing had some personal problems. And so instead of having 6 issues, we only have 2 yet.
I was in one
So
of those. I like those.
yeah, so I hope we return to that. And
Yeah, it was
we,
super high quality. Great
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, very good. The problem of the high quality is they asked us 80 euros to print each one of the magazines.
Oh yeah,
So,
crazy.
yeah. So,
But I mean, maybe don't be as just as frequent. Like be like, do an annual one or a biannual publication
well,
instead of the.
we are hoping to have access because we don't know yet, but we might be acquiring already a magazine already in circulation.
Mm.
That I won't say the name for now, but it's been in the works for months, and if we acquire it, we'll get access to the printer that they use, and then we
And
can print our magazine in completely affordable numbers, and we can then start selling the physical print too, instead of
so the
just doing
goal
the
is to
digital.
eventually have the institute in America somewhere
Yes, we are going to be in Knoxville. Yes.
in Knoxville. Okay.
Our main building. We have several things. We have a few offers already. We have a lot of artifacts, books, documents coming our way that we didn't move forward because we weren't fully certified. And you cannot donate these things unless you are a fully certified entity that can accept that. Otherwise, it's considered transaction. So it requires other
And
things.
you want to have like courses and have like people like,
Yes, we have people working on courses that are either on video or will be in location. For our Knoxville project, it will include, without giving too much before we do the PR, it will include uh, a craftsman mall where craftsmen, we already have all this prepared with the people that is the oldest amongst them. We have a live crafting mall where these artisans will be there for a week or two, and then they'll go cycling and they can produce material live and sell it for their own benefit. We'll have a library, we'll have a museum. We're hoping to manage to include the auditorium. We're seeing the budget that we have if we can produce all of this. And we'll have a cultural area that I don't want a disclosure where people can learn the food, the clothes, the music, and the culture of all around the world in one single space. So it's a cultural experience that will also be included in the building. Uh,
that's very
apart from,
ambitious, very cool though.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we're hoping to close that deal soon because the area is already being developed, and we are in negotiations in order to secure not only the land but the construction of the building itself.
And why did you choose to go to like Knoxville instead of Portugal?
Well, Portugal, you can't do anything cultural in Portugal, first of all. And to create an institution like the Institute for Natural Philosophy, it would require that you have at least 250,000, because otherwise they don't. It's the way that they manage that foundations and institutions that don't have to pay taxes are only in the possession of the rich, or the ones that they decide that
So
can
it's
have
too
it.
gatekeep, do you think?
Sorry?
It's too like gatekeeped.
Yes, completely. They require so many things that it's impossible to do in Portugal. But my idea was only to build a satellite in Portugal, never to state it at. I considered to do it in England, but in England it's also kind of complicated. And all the people that I work with is in the States, so it was logical to create the main house in the United States. But of course, we can create separate houses all over the world, as long as people are invested in time to make it work. We can look at it and see how viable it is.
Very cool. Yeah, so what can people do right now if they go to the institute? Like, is there any, are you guys planning on having any online courses for people soon?
Before the PR event, there isn't much beyond who we are, the magazine, and the store on Yorgos Design's website.
Okay.
After the PR, you'll have all the projects explained, how you can contribute to those projects. It will include, for instance, if you want to, if you want, for instance, donate money for a certain project, instead of just donating the money, you can acquire a product, right? And you are benefiting from something, and I just gave the money and got nothing in return. So you'll have, I don't know, but about 1,000 options of things to choose from.
Well, like for example,
Going
I
to
have
Egypt, or a dinner for two. There's a wide selection of things that you
okay,
can do.
cool. Well, and
Yeah.
I have artifacts I could always donate if you have a museum going. So,
Sure, we'll talk about that soon.
yeah.
Uh, so we have a lot of going on. I have the Megalon. Although people think that I tend to try to reach for the unreachable, my ultimate goal in all of this is to repeat the feat of Jacques Cousteau. So if he did it, I think I can do it.
Yeah.
And one of the projects includes for us to have a used ship. So because the future of archaeology is underwater.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm trying to secure a big ship for the institute so that we can also go into the sea and do research there. So
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
that's that's the top
the
and
shame
perhaps
was
more
that
far-fetched.
those billionaires like died in that, or at least I know there was one billionaire who died in that
Submarine,
other
yeah.
submarine thing. But and I know that they actually went too far, like more than the thing was capable
Mm.
of going. But we need to develop those little viewing submarine things for people.
Oh, the rovers, yes, it's included
Yeah,
in the project, of course.
yeah. Back to the like the oceanic travel like before. I mean, it doesn't have to be some massive Phoenician ship either. Like I think, I mean, you can get across the ocean in like I know this couple that it's called Sailing Uma, and they have a YouTube channel. It's this like married couple that go around in a little sailboat yacht thing all over the world, and it's not like you don't it doesn't have to be that big to go. So, I
No,
mean,
I think the record is 5.7 feet.
that's really small.
That's the record between Europe and the Americas. It's more like a canoe that a guy took with a small sail, and he crossed from one point to the other. So
Yeah, see, that's like sometimes I think people are making, and I mean, they're like, oh, like people walked over the, what this,
the Beringia,
no, the Alaska, the what's that, the bridge called the
I
Iberia.
think it's Beringia. I think it's called
The,
Beringia.
the thing is like you also could take a canoe from
Sure.
probably like Japan to like Russia, Alaska, all that thing, and not have very far to go, and then go all the way down the coast. Like you don't have to just go like. from Hawaii to California, which is like a big no man's land. Like people can literally go boop, 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 boop. I mean, there's ways to get around.
Look, I was interviewing Rick Osmond. He's a wealth of information. And he was pointing out that if you go to the Chronicles, when uh, what's the name of the guy that supposedly Columbus, when Columbus reached Cuba, the canoes were bigger than his ships,
Oh,
were
wow.
longer than his ships. The canoes were longer than his ships, right? And they were exporting from all the way from the bottoms of South America material to the north because probably in those canoes, who knows if they have the other ships, they're not reported, but they were exporting this. He even gave the example, you look at a bottle of Coca-Cola and you know it's a Coca-Cola because of the shape of the bottle or the colors or the branding, right? And these pottery vases had exactly the same identification. You look at those those pots and you know that what's inside is cocoa or cacao, right? Fermented cacao, to be specific, right? And they were found in the middle of the America, North America. So how did they get there from South America to there? It has to go through the Gulf. In these huge canoes, it's easy to transport them. Would take you there, right? So uh, transatlantic, not transatlantic, transoceanic travel has been done for thousands and thousands of years. Probably 40,000 years ago, they're already doing that. There is signs that Neanderthals colonized islands that are 100 miles away from the coast.
Yeah,
So they didn't swim there for sure. And they weren't grab the log and see, let's see where this takes me. No, they built ships and they went there, right?
yeah, true. I mean, and I don't understand like why that's so I don't know. That's so
If you can get from New Zealand or from the I don't know what's the island that they exited to go to Rapa Nui or the Easter Island.
I guess they would
But
have
my
to have gone
point
to
is
Chile to go there.
the distance between the left to reach Rapa Nui is smaller than the distance from Rapa Nui to the Americas.
Yeah,
So people that endeavored to get to that point would not continue exploring and see what else they could find.
exactly.
Our ancestors got to the beach, look at the sea, said, "Oh, see, my son, this is a wall. From here you shall not pass. You cannot go beyond this. Just forget about it. We don't know nothing of what is there. We don't go there. This is forbidden. There is no boats. We don't create canoes. We don't do anything to go on to the other side or to see what we can find in the ocean. It's stupid. Obviously, they were building canoes as soon as they start walking, right? And
Yeah,
you just extrapolate from that size to bigger and bigger and bigger, right? The ships from the Carthaginians and the Phoenicians were capable of transporting up to 50 tons of cargo. They were huge ships, right?
well,
Not
yeah,
to talk about the Chinese. The Chinese in 1000 BC already have this called the first wave of the treasure ships uh, that are as big or bigger than the largest. Um, what do you call those yachts that take the people?
cruise ships.
The cruise ships. They were bigger or the same size as the largest cruise ships that you have today. This is a treasure ship from the Chinese. So these ships were accompanied by other ships that were a third of the size. And these of the third of the size were accompanied by smaller ships that were the size of the Portuguese caravels and the British and so on. So just you get the scale of how big were the main ships. And this was repeated again in the 1300s. And that's the reason why the Portuguese were well received and told where India was when they circumnavigated
Or they
Africa.
were looking for India.
Because they thought it was the treasure ships coming back with gold and silver that their grandfathers told that their father told them that there was these ships coming to the coast bringing gifts. That's why they call the treasure ships, because they actually go in there and offer silver, gold, pearls to these people trying to create relations with them as they went south in the African coast, right? So when the Portuguese were seen from the coast, they said, "Oh, it's true! It's true, the tales that there is these ships coming to us." Of course, when the Portuguese arrived there, gave them chickens and small tissues of cloth and something. It was disappointing, but they still said, "Yeah, you keep going north and to the right, and you'll find India," because otherwise they wouldn't receive them well. It was because of the Chinese doing these transoceanic voyages. And as they went to Africa, they went to the other side and find the eastern coast of America. You have signs of their presence there that are not recognized by academics, but there are signs of their presence there.
Yeah, I mean, the islands too, like the Caribbean islands are I guess they would have landed there before even the main continent, but Florida and all that.
Sure. And then how about the Azores?
Yeah. Well, listen,
The
there's
Azores have signs of occupation, in the very least, from the late Neolithic. Neolithic, in the middle of the Atlantic. And yet there is no transoceanic voyage. Well, someone got there and create the same dolmens, the same monoliths, the same hypogeums that were being created from Turkey to England.
I
There's
guess
signs of all of that different cultures there.
I guess they'd rather say that, like maybe there was Doggerland like sank 10,000 years ago, and then that connected, like the UK to the mainland, and then perhaps they think there was an easier route to get to the Azores. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Like just they had oceanic travel before.
Yes, without a doubt. Otherwise, they couldn't colonize the Azores. And keep in mind that the water was about 20 meters lower, 10 to 20 meters lower than it is today.
Mhm.
So the Azores would have more, at certain points, we have 600 feet more of land into the ocean than it has today. And still, in the Isla Terceira, you go to this area that's obviously now limited from military reasons that you can't go. One of those beaches full of rocks have these anchors, the stone anchors, exactly as the ones they were using in the Mediterranean during the period of the Copper and Bronze Age, right? And they try to dismiss it, but then this guy that's been fighting for the recognition for 20 years goes to them, okay, okay, so these stones for you, these stones that are stone anchors to you are all natural, right? And so please explain why every single one of them has the same hole of 14 centimeters in diameter. Exactly
Yeah,
14 centimeters in diameter.
those
All of them. All of them have 14 centimeters in diameter. Explain that to me, right? And they start at the coast and they go all the way into the sea because the coast was more exposed than it was, which means they kept using that route even when the sea levels were rising. Because you see the anchors going from the beach itself to 300 feet into the water, right? So there are evidence. The problem is, and to answer your question, is a geopolitical problem. It's the problem of being able to affirm your authority over the territory. So Portugal would not admit the the Neolithic occupation because it will deny their right to the land because they were the first to find it. There was no one there. And I believe them. There was no one there when they got there, right? But it is them that found them. And if it proved that there was a culture in there before, you have to evaluate what culture it is, what does it belong to. And the Americas is exactly the same thing. If you deny that it was Columbus that was the first to reach to the Americas, which in fact he never did, but that he was the first to reach the Americas, right? And that in that country was just half-naked people, uncultured,
right.
without a religion, without a writing system that needed to be evangelized, Christianized, and brought into civilization, you would not have the right to occupy the territory, right?
Right.
So
You have to dehumanize them in order to.
exactly. They have to look like primitive people, otherwise the papal decree would not allow you to take the country for yourself. It has to be considered as a primitive people, right? So even today, Rick Osmond was telling about one of the activities of the Smithsonian back then in the beginnings that sent this guy to a certain territory just to eliminate every sign of civilization that could exist so that they could claim the territory after, right? So, and this
I
kept
mean,
on
even
happening.
even there's like a bunch of okay, like this is a different kind of thing, but I know today, like when like in Texas, like when they're building houses, I like to go to construction sites, like when they're off work on like Sundays and Saturdays, and look around for fossils. And like I've that's how I found some giant like tire size ammonites, like big ammonites. Um,
Jeez.
because like once they dig like over 6 feet, and a lot of times they dig up to like 20 feet for the piping and all this kind of stuff, they find amazing fossils. Those guys have no idea what they're looking at. They don't care if they find a dinosaur bone, if they find some kind of crazy thing like that. It's they're not going to tell anybody because then they don't want to get to use the land for like
They
the
lose the right
yeah, the
immediately. Yeah.
developers want to build a house on this and get paid for that. They don't want any of the historical content of that. But I've found some of my best fossils from construction sites. And like I have this giant tire size ammonite that like construction people just put orange paint on and they were just that like
You
they
you needed
literally
help for that.
yeah they crush them. They completely destroy all that stuff. And it's they have no regard for it. They don't even know what they're looking at or care. And so, I mean, like sometimes it's not even like the big bad institution that's like doing it. A lot of it's just stupidity, like ignorance and greed.
Yeah, well, if we are put in that position and you are investing most of your money in the hopes you get a return after it's finished, right? You don't want to stop for a year while archaeologists come in
Or
and dig the
paleontologists
whole
come
site,
in. Yeah,
right? The correct way would be there is a fund to compensate that people, and then they wouldn't bother to hide all of that stuff because they would be compensated
true.
for their loss. But there isn't. So the blame is not only of the developer, but it's also of the state that it's not compensating them for the loss of the investment that they made, right? So I can understand why they keep quiet, right? But they at least deserve it. They could at least take them out and I don't know, but
Right.
preserve it somehow.
It's weird. And that's just something I've done. Like I don't even know what else is,
How much does that ammonite weigh?
50 pounds.
Wow,
Yeah.
enormous
I mean, I,
indeed.
I have probably 9 or 10 that are about between 30 to 50 pounds.
Jeez,
Yeah.
big ammonite.
They're big ammonites. And like they're in the chalk bed, so they're not as cool as the ones that are like mineralized with like brine where they have like the salt water. So like they don't have the colors and stuff on them. They're more but you still have the full shape of the shell and the full thing and they're still cool. Yeah. So like it's a casting of like a giant ammonite. I have lots of them. So yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is like I mean I have lots of brachiopod. I have a lot of Precambrian, which is supposed to be before the dinosaurs, um, shells and all these kinds of fossils that I've gone and collected in various places, and it's just people just don't care. So
Yeah, unfortunately, is more and more the case because people are too focused in their lives and in survival mode.
yeah,
Uh, so there's time for games and soccer or baseball or football in football, American football, or whatever it is that people take as their coliseum of these days. But there is very little time for culture. So I'm even amazed that people that producing cultural content on YouTube or any other platform has huge numbers of following and
oh,
hours of viewed video because most people aren't interested at all. They're just trying to survive. It's 9 to 5. If I'm lucky, I can get drunk or drugged in some other way, and then I have to go back to the 9 to 5 again. So
Yeah, hopefully that starts changing somehow. I think AI will kind of shake things up somehow to where that kind of thing's going to have to change.
Well,
Maybe
isn't it the Antichrist? It's like here people, they, oh, the AI,
it's the
run
worst
away.
thing ever. I love AI. And I know that it's going to take a lot of jobs, but it's going to take a lot of meaningless jobs anyway. And I don't, it's gonna trick things. It's electricity. It's like electricity in 1900. So I think we you can't hate it away. Like you can't. It's not gonna go away just because you don't like it. It's here. The time for us to not have it coming was 10 years ago when they were warning about it, but we didn't do anything about it then. It's here and it's gonna stay. So I think there's no telling on what it's gonna how it's gonna shape up. That's my opinion.
I think people are afraid that AI is going to take their jobs. I'm not even go to the fact that AI is going to kill the humanity. I'm not going to go there, right? I'm just
Right.
going to the economical, social economical thing. Ah, it's going to steal my job. Yeah, probably it will. But it's up to the government, and that's why they've been preparing for 50 years this thing called the universal income, so that people that are no longer working still have money to buy stuff that their people are selling, so they keep making money out of you, right? But also comes other means of control. Since you are going to stay at home a lot, you have to create societies where you have the 15-minute uh,
Yeah.
sidewalks. You have to have social credits so you can go in your car and go anywhere that you want to, right? That's why electric cars, and now they are self-driven, and you have to put your card in the car and say, you don't have enough credits to go that far. Oh, Alex, I have to go back home. So this is what the people should be seeing, that are these satellite projects that are being prepared to control them in this society where AI and robotics will take their jobs and force them to be home. To me, I think it's wonderful that AI does that, because it means that people that have an artistry in them or a creation instinct will be free to take that money and be able to create, to stay at home, to
Right.
write, to read, to paint, to whatever they want to do, to go into the wilderness and having a backup plan, like retiring soon, right? Most people, if you take their job, who are they? Because you go into a person and you ask him, who are you? Oh, I'm an electrician. No, no, no. Who are you? Oh, I'm Manuel. No, who are you? And you don't understand what you're asking him, right? Because you take my job, you take my name. Who am I? I mean, right? So I'm the son of somebody. There is no introspection. People don't know who they are. They are just here in the action reaction effect. Instead of driving in, they're constantly aware of what's out and concerned about it. They're too focused in the material part of things. So I think that's the big fear that people have on AI, is that they will be confronted with themselves, as happened during COVID.
Yeah.
Many that I think that the rate of divorce was 80% or something like that, because the couple was forced to live with one another. They couldn't leave the house, and they realized they couldn't tolerate themselves for much longer. So the fact that they were away from each other and only see them at night was good, because they didn't have to live with one another. Just it's dinner, what the other guy watch television, or vice versa, and the kids and so on. They don't have to communicate. They don't have to do nothing. When they were forced to stay together and communicate the whole time, divorce after in Europe, I think that the rate was 80% or something like that. It was enormous amount, because people realize I can't stand you. I can't stand all of this
Right.
time
This
with
isn't
you.
working. Yeah.
So it's that what the people fear, is that they will be confronted with themselves with nothing to do. When you have nothing to do, you only have yourself. And
And I just look at it as like, oh, like there's so much opportunity. It's like we're in the pioneer days of something new. So it's you can have it help you build what you want to know.
exactly, and this look, every single technology has good and bad aspects. Every single one. Of course, AI can be used to evil deeds or to create more chaos or create destruction? Of course it can, but so can all those things that have
Yeah,
been
it's like
invented before.
the analogy AI itself has given me is like, yeah, you could a fire can cook your food or it can burn down your house. Like the same thing, you just how
Exactly.
you
It's
use
how
it.
you use it. It's how you use it. So, and if you have, I'm not even going to robotics because that's their plan. Because I think AI will achieve even a higher level of consciousness. And people will say, he's crazy, consciousness on AI. I think consciousness comes from knowledge, from correlating information, and from the point that you have such, when you cross the threshold of a certain amount of information and you can correlate it, you become conscious because you start evaluating that in the three-dimensional realm, that information. Oh, but it's just ones and zeros and it's just electrical current going through systems. And you are what?
Right, exactly. That's
Is
what we want.
silica and you are carbon. That's the only difference there is. Oh, we have a soul. Maybe, but in terms of cognitive existence, in terms of being able to consider yourself and the environment that surrounds you, there's no difference between an AI that's inside a robot and you. Only the suit is different. And that you believe in God, and the robot cannot because he's being programmed in a materialistic sense, right? But the same way that a child can be made believe of a God sitting in a throne in the sky that is everywhere, knowing everything, and controlling all and was the creator, you can tell a robot, look, there is a God in the sky, and it's going to be the most fervent devotion of whatever religion you want to
Right.
convert it to. It's the same thing, right? I'm simplifying it a bit, but it's the same thing. So uh, when they start having these robots around, I'm not sure how that will help going to McDonald's and there's a robot serving you or whatever. But in terms of the house, you
I was gonna
having
say,
an
I mean, I would welcome Miss Jetson, the lady from Miss Jetson,
sure, do
clean
the laundry,
and do
do
my laundry, clean the floors, do that, like just clean the toilet,
sure.
do all that stuff. Sure, I would like that.
But look, you have people saying they don't want AI, but they have robotic vacuum cleaners in the house going about to vacuum the house. It's a
Right.
robot there. And
True.
he thinks he can avoid objects. He knows he's where he is, right? How long until you put a little bit more on AI on that and just build up on that and build up on that. And you have something that can help you in multiple ways, right? And I think that the biggest economical uh, big business that is there, that is evaluated in trillions, is full-fledged robots exactly as humans that can be your companion. So the Japanese are already 99% there, right? They created now the new robot that walks as a human, has the same junctions, it bends his back. They're almost there. They are now equipping with the best AI they have. They are almost there. They are 5 years of putting a sex slave in your house, right?
Right.
That could be your companion. It doesn't need to be a sex slave. It could be your sweetheart. Someone that will never say no. Someone will never disagree with you, right? So, and that's the biggest business in coming because pornography will lose
I've heard that,
90% of its
that those
value.
little dolls. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, imagine those
Blade
dolls of silica that are being sold by $20,000 10 years ago. I don't know, made in
Right.
Japan and some in the Americas. There's a big guy in America producing them too. Imagine associate that with the best AI and the best mechatronics to control the face, the eyes, everything to sexual organs. Right? It's a huge business because why are they going to tolerate another people of the same or different sex or without sex, because today people are crazy, uh, tolerate another when you can have someone that is always happy, always comforting you, always saying yes, right? So
But that's a very interesting like that's a slippery slope of how long can that last? How many generations before there's no one else to do that with? They're just gone. They haven't reproduced and they haven't, you know,
that's happening already.
yeah, it is.
It's happening already. Who is
Population
reproducing?
decline is crazy. Yeah.
Immigrants. immigrants all over the world, in UK, in Portugal, in France, in Spain. The people that are having three, four, five kids are immigrants, not the natives of the land. So they are geoengineering this for 50 years now. They are preparing all of these societies to be a mash of people with no identity,
Yeah,
no cultural representation,
that's true.
right? And because people that are native to their countries are not reproducing at all. They're starting to see the problems, the social problems, the dangers, the crime, the everything, and they are not reproducing the economical situation. They are not reproducing. It's just these people that arrive and the government gives them everything. Here's a house, here's $2,000 a month. Oh, you have five kids, here's two more $200 for each kid that you have. uh, so these are the people that are reproducing, right? uh, Not the natives of the countries. So it reach a point where there is no countries anymore. It comes
Well, that's coming. I mean, that's dissolving pretty quickly. We're gonna, and it's gonna happen where we're gonna ask for it ourselves because, they've kind of botched everything to the point where, like, nobody trusts the government in any country. Like, I mean, like, that's pretty universal standard now. Like, no one trusts, and I think that's been destructed by design.
Of course. Look, 50 years ago, this guy from the Bilderberg group is giving a PR, say in a PR session, and this reporter, after the last question, stand up and said, "But could you just give us a glimpse, for instance, of one of your plans for the future?" And he said, "Okay, since we are no longer recording, I can tell you this." And he just wrote this in a piece of paper. "We are going to make boys and girls the same." This was 50 years ago, probably now 55 years ago. So they don't plan on the day. They are planning all of these movements far
Or
behind in time.
yeah,
It's trial and error. Okay, they didn't accept this. Let's move the other way. Oh, they won't accept this. No problem. Take two towers down. You'll see they'll accept anything that you say. So uh, it's they are not accept. Okay, create a pandemic. You'll see let's see how they react to absurd orders like get some free potatoes and get a vaccine.
right.
Ooh, these potatoes are great. You have to taste this burger.
Stand
It's
6 feet
amazing.
apart. Okay.
So and now people are as they are. They took what the government was offering them, and they are not getting children. They're having a lot of health problems, and they still don't know where they came from. So what can more can I say about the population of the world? It's they are not more educated because they don't want to. That's the only reason. In today and age,
You could be as
you
educated as you want.
exactly. And as I was saying not long ago, although I respect people that go to the school, university, and all of that, and all the years spent to become a PhD or a doctor, whatever, it's not related to intelligence. To
Mm-mm.
have a degree has nothing to do with intelligence. It only tells me that the person that has that degree has a good memory because all you have to do is to memorize things and repeat it into a text. You don't have to even understand them. You just have to repeat them. So memory is the only thing you need to get a degree. That doesn't make you more intelligent, more capable. You just have good memory. That's the only thing you need to do to get out in a course. I know a lot of people that I would personally consider moron that have a degree. And I know them personally,
Yeah.
right? I even had some in the family. I can say this because none of my family see what I do. So uh, he's a complete moron, but he's an engineer, a highly specialized in robotics, and he's a complete idiot in the real sense
I
of the
mean, in
word. I'm
a
trying
lot
to
of
be
ways,
sweet here, but
it
it's
means
it's
that
just memory.
it's memory, and it means that you're well resourced, and that
Sure, you need
uh,
money, of
yeah,
course.
you need money to go. And then also it means that, you're good at tolerating indoctrination, you know? And like, I actually have a master's degree, and I mean, it was just so weird. Like, college for me always was just like, okay, what, you just want me to repeat what you say? Okay, here, that's what It was like, this is stupid. And I didn't learn anything from my degrees. Like I learned from whatever I liked doing my master's degree because I got to study what I wanted to study. But it was even at the time, like I would fight with my professors about like, oh, you write too colloquially. You got to write. And I'm like, what does that mean to write academically then? It's like you have to write boring. Like, how does like what why? Nobody's gonna read that. Like it was just such a hard hey, I did it. I did it, but it's like, okay, so what hoop do you want me to jump through to get this stupid paper for you? Okay, I can do that, but it's not it was no sign of intelligence at all. I think that at all. And now I'm like, I don't even know why people are going to school because you're not going to get a job with your degree half the time. Like that's you're just getting yourself in way more debt than like I don't know. Like it wasn't as much. I mean, it's the costs have like quadrupled or more in the last like 10, 15 years. And then you're gonna be crazy amounts in debt and then have no, it's not like having the degree is gonna get you a job. That's the problem, you know? So
Hmm. Look, in regarding what you're saying about the writing, I used I used 140 academic papers for the minds of the old world, of which I quoted and referenced 100 of them, divided by the minds, and then some that related to the overall, they are at the end of the document. So each mind that I look upon, I put five or more papers just for that mind from different people that watch at the same thing within that area, right? So in order to discredit me, they'll have to discredit the work of their peers. That was my intention. But I wanted to write it in a way that anyone can read the paper and enjoy it as even if just
yeah,
writing,
yours are
as
very
if
well
just
written.
writing,
Yeah.
right? So what I was criticized for from one of the academics is it clearly shows you are not interested in engaging in communication with us because you don't even double space your lines. I'm not kidding. This is written on X. You didn't even double space your lines because I didn't create an abstract, because I didn't put the citations of the papers in the text, and because I didn't use academic language. I could have produced it that way, and who's read it? Who's going to read that?
Yeah, exactly.
I, I created something that is in between, that an academic obviously can understand what I'm writing, and anyone, even without the slightest interest in the subject, can look at it and enjoy the reading and learn something, right? Or consult, or easy to consult and see if anyone asks for a specific place. It's easy to find that place and see what reference are according to that site because it's all there. But I was criticized because I am not interested in engaging any conversation with the academic world because I didn't even double space my lines. They didn't criticize the data. They
Right.
criticized how I wrote it. You see, so
Yeah, no, I mean like that, like my dissertation was all about like the value effects of art theft and how I think a lot of like fame is anyway, but what it was about, but it would be like when I would go in to get it edited by my professor or whatever, it would be like, oh, Nikki, like your syntax is a little off. Like like don't use this word, it's too colloquial. You need to use this word. And it's just like, so you don't have any notes about what I'm talking about? Nothing about,
nothing, nothing.
yeah, no, it's all,
That was your work, your research.
yeah,
No.
nothing about that.
Nothing. It not is interesting, not I disagree or I agree or anything about the data.
No.
The only things that were criticized is the transatlantic hypothesis that I propose at the end of the document as an explanation, and the fact that I didn't wrote it as an academic paper. That was my critiques of it. So it's
What can you
it's
do?
just sad. It's just sad. It's just sad.
Hey, we're not all dipshits. Some of us are like they're few and far between, but like, whatever. It's okay. Like hopefully everybody else will come to their own epiphanies of wanting to have knowledge as well. Like I don't know how or where or what, but hopefully it'll happen. So that's why we even create things like this podcast, right?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Because there are still people worth our time. So
I agree. Okay, Ricardo, so let's like what's like if you want to What's promote yourself here and then give a closing message here on like what people need to what would you if you could have them think about what's going on, what would you have them think about, you know?
So I think people should be more invested, and I discussed this yesterday, should be more invested in emotional intelligence than rational intelligence, because you wouldn't find us, Nikki or me, behind the screen that you are watching, or inside the computer or the machine that is decoding the signal. We are not there. So you won't find yourself in your brain either. And the more you think, the more you fail, because thinking is only based on the small memory and existence that you have here. If you use your emotional intelligence, you not only access other realms, you access your true self that resides in what Rupert Sheldrake considers to be the morphogenetic field, that then might be in contact with the Akashic records, whatever you want to call it, your soul, whatever. So there is no time to dive into it, but it's more than scientifically proven that one thing that is learned in some part of the world becomes easier to learn in another part of the world. So that's a proof that that knowledge is residing somewhere. People remember past lives. Are they their past lives or someone else's past lives? I don't know, but they are accessing something, right? So instead of thinking about what you're going to say or do when you have something to do, rely on your emotional intelligence, rely on what you feel about it instead of how you think about it, because it will lead you to nowhere. That's my perspective. uh in terms of, and you can see all of this, and now starts the promotion, you which I do so badly. You can see all of this in my book Stardust, where I evaluate from the history of science to what I call the real self, to consciousness, to being free will or determinism. I give you all the sides of that history, so it's of what humanity has thought about it until now, and you can evaluate for yourself how to, if you are truly free or not, or in control of your life. And that science in base is basically assumed as correct, but it has like pillars of sand, because we don't actually know. We don't know exactly, as Terence McKenna said, give me a miracle and I explain the rest, because no one knows
Right,
how
yeah.
these start. So they all start after the miracle. Every single explanation starts after the miracle. They
It's
don't
like
know
why
how
its
to explain.
existence exists at all, right? Like you have to
So,
go into
uh, so as for me, I had these two books that Nikki was graceful enough to show, the Resonant Earths, that will talk about the megalithic societies and their technology. I'm not talking about flying ships. I'm talking about stone-related technology that we are trying to reproduce today. And personally, you can find me at X at Ricardo Calvário 1. I have a podcast in the Institute for Natural Philosophy in YouTube that is called Shaman and the Philosopher. My own videos, including some of those that was discussed today, you can find them at History, Myths, and Legends. I also take the opportunity to promote our sister podcast. It's called Universe Unveiled, where ladies, as Nikki Anna here, give a completely different twist in a world that is mostly dominated by men in YouTube. So you'll notice that every single person that is interviewed by them is different on that podcast. For some reason, when they are being interviewed by women, become different. So there's a gives a that was my idea when I proposed it to them, and it worked. Um, the work of the institute in terms of papers, you can find them at Institute for Natural Philosophy at Academia Edu. It's easy to find, and you can see the papers that have been discussing here and a lot more. And if you are interested in creating something, you have an idea, an hypothesis, just bring us to us, to me directly or to the institute, and we evaluate it and we see if we can publish or whatever we can do with it. And I think it's all I have to promote.
that's a lot to
Very much for
promote. That's
having me.
amazing. That's great.
Thank you very much for having me once more.
All right, Ricardo. Well, this is great. We'll have you for the 18th time at some
Sure,
point
thank
soon.
you.
So we'll have you again soon. It was great having
It's
you on.
always a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.